Welcome everyone. It is Chikava back at the Shiro. Oh, wait. Preview recorded. Okay, I'm good. I am so professional. We are recording. The light is on. Welcome everybody. It is Chikava and we are back at the Shiro Space podcast. With an extra special day. We are visiting with my homiette, Lady Shepsa Jones. And she's my homiette because she shares the Taoist path with me as a teacher. And she has beautiful roots in Ifa, traditional African religion. We also share our Tao Tantric training. We share so much. This is going to be amazing. Sit back, get some tea, get a cocktail, whatever you might need. Ladies and gentlemen, Lady Shepsa Jones.
Oh, thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's also nice to hear somebody pronounce my name correctly.
I'm so excited. We all like it when we get our name said right.
Yeah.
We very much do.
Yes, exactly.
How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm feeling relaxed. I feel like, the weather was beautiful today.
Yes.
So
September is perfect for your afro too.
It is, because you know what? This summer, like the shrinkage, I mean, it still has shrunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's still some shrinkage, but summertime, first of all, it's hot. Like this,
we know.
It brings heat. So
yep.
I'm like, now, nice, cool fall day.
Little 70 degrees.
Yeah. Like we can do this.
Low humidity.
Yeah. She can hang out a little longer.
All right. So, how did it all begin? You're a native Brooklynite?
No, actually, I grew up in Philadelphia.
That's right. You're my Philly girl, too. That's another thing we have in common. My mom's what I like to call a North Philly gangster.
So was my mom.
Oh, yeah? You're from Ogons and Nedro.
Okay. Yes.
Indeed. So when did you come up to New York City?
So I actually came to New York to go to college. I was a student at NYU. Mm-hmm. I came to be a theater major. So I was a student at Tisch, drama major, and then I wound up actually double majoring in Africana studies. So when I came to New York, I came because I wanted to be an actress. So like the arts, also that was like my main draw. And then I'm going to say somehow, clearly it was destiny, got on this like spiritual road and journey.
Spiritual woo-woo.
Yeah, that took me on a whole other like different path than what I would have ever imagined when I came to New York. Yeah.
Wow. So when did that, I want to go back to childhood first, because to me there's always a couple of punctuations along the way where when you look back, you're like, that's what that was. When did you kind of first start hearing your soul, feeling your soul, wondering what else there was?
Well, first of all, I'm a Pisces, so there's that. Which is like, anybody's into astrology, Pisces, like we come here just not even fully here. Like we're still somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. So as a child, I was always naturally spiritual. Mm-hmm. And, growing up in Philadelphia, like my mom didn't go to church. She was not about that life. But, like my father did, like maybe once I was like in middle school. So I was always like attracted to like spirit and God. And I always also was attracted to like the occult, like low key. Mm-hmm. Like I remember in elementary school finding some book. No, was it? Actually, middle school. It was a book on like doing readings with cards, with playing cards.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So I remember getting the book and like doing readings and things like that. That probably was like maybe like 7th grade or so. And then, just kind of always into like alternative. But growing up, like my, what I knew was Christianity, right? Because I would go to church with my dad. And me being like this deeply spiritual person, like whatever spiritual, path I'm on, I'm very devout. Like so I was like Bible thumper Christian. I was like read the Bible before you go to school in the morning. Wow. Christian. Like we had Bible study in school. You know what I mean? I didn't lead the Bible study, but I attended.
You rolled up.
I attended.
Do they have
a couple
good
times.
snacks? Do they have good snacks?
I don't remember snacks.
Okay, I remember
Yeah.
they used to have the. Do you remember the pink frosted elephant cookies?
Oh,
That
wow.
was my jam. I'm a Taurus, so
Ah,
I'm like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
got the
yeah.
right cookie.
Yeah,
Here I am.
I have a Taurus moon. My moon is in Taurus.
Here I
so.
am. Let's have Bible school.
Yeah.
You got the right cookie.
Yeah. Yes, I was just very much so like very devout. And so, a big part of that for me, I know we're going to get to like the sexual energy piece and everything like that. We have so many
We have
pieces.
so much to talk about.
But for me, a big part of being devout was like staying a virgin and, and all that stuff, so maybe we'll circle back. I know it was so many paths,
So
but
in
I was
your
very,
first kind
very,
of-
I was like prototypical good girl. Like,
Yeah. Really, really straight, narrow.
yes, honor roll, like star, golden child.
And
make my
did you
parents
have
proud.
like a kind of a fear in the back of your head that if you screw this up, like
Oh my goodness, yes. I would have
fire brimstone?
Yeah, well, even more so like failure. Like I would remember having I was nowhere even near a penis. And I remember having dreams of like being a teenage mother, like being pregnant. It's like a nightmare,
Right.
like so for me it was like more like failure and kind of like succumbing to the environment. But of course like the hell, fire and brimstone stuff too, but it was also like the pressure of just like I have to excel, like I can't fuck this up. I can't be a stereotype. I cannot be a statistic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because, I mean, coming up in Philly,
Yeah,
a lot of
hood.
people were not going to be okay and we're taking
Yes.
different turns.
Right. You have the drug dealers in the neighborhood. You have, teenage pregnancy. You have all the things, all the stereotypes, all the challenges, all the trauma,
Oh my
all
God.
of it.
To be a black woman, especially from any kind of strict nuclear family situation, it's like you spend all this time, you spend so many years not getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And then one day you go home for a holiday and they're like, where's the baby?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm freaking allowed to get pregnant now. Okay,
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know.
Right. Like so much focus on like not fucking up, like the pressure,
And not fucking.
definitely not fucking,
Not.
not in my mother's house. You
And
weren't
it's
fucking.
so bad. It's so bad
Right.
because it doesn't deal with when we're teenagers. These hormones are raging, and now
Right.
we're moving through hormones in womanly ways. But let's face it, nothing is the kisses, the making out, nothing feels like it did when those hormones first kicked on. We can have great
Well,
chemistry
I
with
wasn't
something.
doing any of that. So
You missed that
it
part.
feels so much better. It was great for me now because I wasn't
Well,
doing it.
We're not setting our girls up to integrate.
Right, and to like understand that it is like your body is sacred. It's a sacred experience. It's not
It
to be
is.
feared, or it's to be protected, but it's not to be repressed. It's not to be like you're not to separate yourself from it. Like it's very
Right.
natural. Like it's part of you. Part of you, like everything else, is part of you.
I would love to be able to talk to teenage women about, the sensations that they feel, how to relate to their mates, no matter which direction they might want to go in terms of gender, and what your body is doing and what can, like, the okayness of pleasure in your body, and separating as early as possible, separating your body from the ideas you get in the media.
Right.
Because golly, like as a, am I a former burlesque performer? I have a strong burlesque background, and it's so interesting because at the time we started BGB in 2007, can you believe it's been that long? It was a radical thing to do. It was a political thing to do. It was a statement about, women out there and their bodies. And then if you look at it kind of concurrently with hip hop, there was a big fat hole between Little Kim coming out here and being very overtly sexual.
Yeah.
And then we fast forward to today, and it isn't a prude thing in me, but I'm like, girl, if you don't stop talking about you're the first person who ever had a pussy, I'ma die. These girls are out here, like, I'm for everybody to be expressed, but it's turned into...
Yeah, I think it's the point where it becomes a gimmick.
It's a gimmick, and it's destructive programming. It's kind of starting to... It feels, for me, I'm experiencing it the way I never felt comfortable with NWA. I always felt like, what's going on? And then as time progressed, and I don't know, it's a sort of a tangent, but have you ever seen this documentary, The Bastards of the Party?
No.
It was a brilliant documentary about that runs a concurrent line between the falling apart of pro-African Black American movements with the rise of gangster hip-hop. And how, like,
it
these
makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and now we have these women out here in a time. It's what an amazing contrast. You know, we're about to have an African American, Indian American woman president, and then we have, I'm not going to name any of the ladies because I can't remember everybody's name, but we know who they are. Like, stand out for.
I do want to say though. I like a little ratchetness. Like,
well, and see, isn't
I
that
like
the
a little
balance
dose of ratchetness. I think for me, coming up as like the good girl, like I wasn't listening to Little Kim and Foxy Brown and any of that. I was so what's the word? It was my own repression of my own sensuality and sexuality that made me like repulse from it. Like, oh my God, like how dare they? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I'm like I have a Ratchet Goddess playlist.
Yeah.
Of songs that I don't listen to it every day, you know. But sometimes it's like, all right, I've been doing all this holy. I need a little ratchetness. Like I need a little junk food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I need a little bit of it. So, and I feel like I definitely couldn't listen to a lot of those artists like all day, every day. Like I would be insane. But like a little, you know, like
It's
drizzle a little hoe.
Well, it's an important aspect of us.
Yeah, the hoe is part of the whole.
We all that.
Yeah,
we are all that.
The pantheon.
And I guess what I don't love is in the media twists and turns, it gets put upon us. Like I don't like it when anybody controls the image of us, and I don't like seeing these women being used, you know, to promote someone else's agenda. I am so here for our sovereign expression, you know, I am so here for it. But how do we keep grounded in that? And then kind of, too, when you interplay it with the way porn is impacting our young people.
Yeah.
And how they have sex. It's like, how can we be a part of giving people a holistic
right? I think it's
it.
the lack of consciousness, because you can do anything. I'm not anything, but you know, you can, you know, be hoish or whatever, but having the consciousness around the power of what you're doing and actually knowing how to like channel that energy makes it a totally different thing. You know what I mean? So I think it's the lack of awareness and the lack of consciousness around, you know, some of the artists and the music and the impact, and then the young people taking it in, you know. And I can listen to like a little Sexy Red song and I can enjoy it, you know what I mean? Like, because I have a certain conscious awareness when I'm listening to it. And it's also like, it's like, girl, stop being so serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and channeling that part of yourself.
Yeah.
I would like to see us at all ages, like channeling our hoe, channeling our genius, channeling our artist, channeling our intellect. Like, I don't want us, I want us to break down any barrier to seeing ourselves as a flat thing somebody told us that we were.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the whole. It's like embracing all of you, and not repressing.
Because that hoe is also, like you said, like a gateway to pleasure. And gosh knows
and like in the confidence, like there's a reason why. I don't even know why we're going on this tangent, but like there's a reason why, men love strippers and hoes. You know what I mean? Like there is power. There's some type of power that a woman who may be walking that path has, and it could be very unconscious and could be very dark and all of that, but there is some type of confidence, like there's something that can be absorbed from that can be useful.
It's really important,
you know what I mean, that for the regular like average day, like I want the confidence of the stripper, you know what I mean, I want to be into my body, I want that command, I want that magnetism, you know what I mean, and it's like we owning that and integrating that into who we are naturally.
I'm right there with you, because that power and that magnetism is the yin. That's essentially where it's coming from. It's coming from the vault, the cave, the darkness. Whether you're at a fancy strip club, fancy or whatever kind of club stripping, or artistic stripping that we kind of call burlesque, or at home with your man, that magnetism. And I think that that's why there's something that's just so taken off about stripping in general, because it's really, I like to say, when I was doing a lot of black burlesque research, my first hypothesis was burlesque is the foundation of American women's popular entertainment. There's not ever been somebody who didn't take a little something off. It's always been there, that allure, that draw, that magnetism. And I think that there's a power in stripping, and to even veer into sex trade, if you will, that is like, that does say, all I need to get anything is this, is me. But it can get kind of displaced, Yeah,
it could definitely get distorted and manipulated and like addictive, and all the dark. The light and the dark is always there. The yin and the yang.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely there.
I'm moving through this phase where I'm very much like working with my, like, I'm about my yin. Like in a different way than working, because you can't work on your magnetism. You can cultivate it, you can clean it, because that yin, this dark space, is also going to be that subconscious and unconscious, and what you bring up to consciousness in there, what you let be okay, instead of rejecting parts of yourself. And in that space, I am just noticing, like, there's some stupid shit I be doing in my life. And now I'm like, oh, why are you doing that? And she'll tell me, and I'm like, okay, I see you. Okay, all right. Yeah. Like, I close my eyes and I'm in this dark space, and I'm like, okay, you know what? This dark space behind my eyes, between my ears, it's the only thing I control in the world.
Absolutely.
So what's in here? Who needs to have her say? What? Because there's room for all of us. Wow. Okay, that was a tangent.
That was a hell of a tangent.
So we had our spirit. How did you come into first? What came first, the Ifa practices or the Taoist practices?
So actually, what came first was just me connecting to traditional African spirituality in period. Actually, it's kind of not true. So, but what I did want to say also, in terms of like pleasure, when we talk about pleasure in teenage girls, one thing that I always had a connection to, even though it did bring shame, was self-pleasure in my own body. And I think, because part of my story, which I always share in like my webinars and things like that, is that I was a virgin until I was 22 years old. Okay. So part of the way I was able to maintain, which, I guess in the West, that's old, right? Old as hell. Was that I self-pleasure from a young age. Like I remember having my first orgasm when I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
And just having that feeling, that sensation. So like the sensuality always was there, but it was very heavily repressed, and with religion and all
And very, very private.
yeah, very, very private. So I always had some type of connection to my body and knowing how to, pleasure myself. But all that also being intertangled with religion, saying that this is dirty and this is sin and you're playing with yourself and all that stuff.
So what changed the day that the indoctrination just all shook off? What was that like?
I don't even know if there was a day. There was like a gradual.
When it all culminated, yeah.
Because I think it was very gradual. I don't think I really began to step into my sexual energy until I was in my 30s. So in terms of what came first, so when I was a student at NYU, I went on a study abroad experience to Cuba. And first of all, Cuba is my favorite place I've ever been, ever. And so I went there because we were taking a class. It was called Topics in Cuban Studies, where you study the country for a semester and then you go for spring break. So we went for spring break for 10 days. And I was just first of all, I was just fascinated by Cuba because I'm it's full of black people. And they don't ever show you these people when they show Cubans. They show a lot of the white or the lighter skinned Cubans. I was like, there's mad black people here. So I was fascinated with that, and also fascinated with just, I don't know, I guess I probably was there before in a past life. So I just felt very drawn to it. So anyway, I was Cuba's a very complex place. Lots of, differences, but it's very complex. That's the best word. I haven't been there in a while, but I'm sure it's still complex.
It's complex as a mofo.
Yeah. So I was like, I want to come back. I had all these questions. My paper was about racism in Cuba that I was writing for the class. I want to come back. So the NYU had another program where you could come back for 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow.
And study it was either dance or photography. It was I'll do dance. And we had one class a day. And also because I had been there already, a lot of the other classes and things that they had to do, I already did. So they were okay, you can go off. So I had one class a day, and otherwhed I was chilling.
Exploring.
Yes.
Oh
so
my
at
gosh.
that time,
This is
yummy.
yummy.
It was so ancestrally directed. One of my friends who were doing a dance program with me, she was I want to get my shells read. I had no idea what the heck that meant. And I was okay. So then we actually wound up running into meeting this man who was Jamaican, but I guess had lived in Cuba, frequented back and forth from Cuba. And he started talking. I probably heard us speaking English because at that time, especially if you were Black American, Cubans were oh my God, wow. They were so excited to speak with us. Yeah. So, he probably heard us, and we had natural hair. So he was a Rasta. He was talking to us, and he was so excited. His name was Daniel. I don't know. I wonder where Daniel is today. That was
I love that you remember his name.
I do. It was very significant. He had a very strong personality. So my friend who said she wanted her shells read shared that with him. He's I'll take you to my padrino. I'll take you to my godfather. And I was okay. So then that Saturday, we all went and got our shells read by his padrino. And for me, I had already walked away from Christianity, or I had already expanded my perspective to understand Christianity was not the only way. At this time, I had been very Afrocentric and natural hair. I was into that part of myself, which is a whole other story how that happened. But he took us to get our shells read, and he translated from Spanish, and his padrino read each of us all together, one at a time. And from that very first reading, he was just you're a child of Oshun. And the things that he was saying and then what he was saying to each of us, it was so tender and powerful. That's what made me change my mind to be oh, this is not devil worship. The way they're talking about Yemaya is the way maybe somebody would talk about Jesus. I remember him telling one of my friends, let Yemaya wipe your tears away. And I was this isn't devil worship. There's nothing evil, about that. So that really opened up my perspective. And then also we wound up walking into a ceremony, a bembe they were having there. We met at that time. I don't know if it's still like this now in Cuba, but we would actually literally meet people on the street like Daniel. And we would talk to them. They would take us to their house. They would cook us dinner. it was just like, I've never experienced that in any place I've ever traveled to. I would never ever do that anywhere else.
Right, and
but
the
it was
things
very,
that you'll do in your co-ed years that
but
that are so specific. 'Cause it's like you have that super conscious guardian angel going on.
Yeah, and I think it was just like destiny. And it was, Cuba also, like, Cuban government also don't play. But it felt very safe in that way. So, yeah, and from there, that's when, like, it sparked, that's where I discovered who the Orisha were. I was introduced to the Orisha. I was introduced to the concept of Ifa, because also we took dance classes. They were having folkloric dance, and you learning Orisha dances and things like that. So it was like just so powerful for me. And I had already been to Africa, and that's part of how I love Christianity. But there, it was interesting because I was like, these people are also the descendant of enslaved people.
Right.
It felt a little different than when you go on the continent. I'm like, okay, these people didn't, they had their own experience, but they're not descendants of people who went through the transatlantic slave trade like we are. So to like be in Cuba and to see the African retentions that they had in their culture was super like dope and powerful. I was like, wow. And it was very also like you could feel it. Like the very first trip that we were there, we were in a dance class, and they had, it was like like their version, I guess, of modern dance, kind of. But it also included some of like of the traditional like folkloric dances. And they had this man, I forget his name, like an older man, but he was walking around singing in the Lukumi language, which is like the mesh, the pidgin of the Yoruba that they developed there. And you could just feel the energy, like you just got goosebumps. And there was another woman in our group. She wasn't from NYU, but she was like recording it. And she got some spirit like hit her, and she dropped the camera and like was like, ah, 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 and like ran out of the room. Like she got some type of possession momentarily. And we were just like, and this is in front of the NYU dean and all types of shit. And we were just like, wow. So it was like just being there and feeling like that energy. So for me, that's when I got introduced to Ifa and Orisha, but I was a little scared of the animal sacrifice part. So when I came back to New York, I didn't have any connection to any community here. But at that time, that's when I met my ex-husband, and I actually was introduced to the community of Asara Set, which is based upon Kemetic tradition. It's like a mixture of a lot of different things.
I did not know we had that in common, too.
You in Asara Set?
Yeah.
Oh, really? In Brooklyn?
Yeah, where else?
Oh,
yeah,
that's
like back. Remember when they had the big old firehouse on Dean Street?
Okay, that was before my time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I first came to New York in the early '90s, I spent my journey with Senor Samaj, who I guess they call Baba Heru.
Yeah.
Now, and at Asara Set. Because I have always, that was my first inclination towards the Kemetic. And I learned there was a lot that I revere Ron Nepharamen very much.
Yes.
And there were some things that
yes.
not so much.
Right.
Yes.
So my ex-husband's family is like deeply in Asara Set. His aunt is one of the wives of Ron Nepharamen. So when I met him, I actually I was part of a study group, and they were talking about reading the Meduna Tear. So I knew a little bit about. I heard about it a little bit, and I knew a little bit about Asara Set.
Yeah, that book changed my life.
Yeah,
there's so many books that changed my life.
Yeah. But. So that was one of the books we were going to read. But then I met my ex-husband. He's like, oh, I'm going to invite you to some meditation classes. So that became, so I was in that community for like 5.5 years, and I was in the junior priesthood. So that was like my first experience. And what about a thing also about Asara Set is that, it combines not just the Kemetic, but that's where I got introduced to Qigong.
Right.
That's where I got introduced to Taoism, and even heard the word Tantra, because it pulls on a lot of the traditions, and even, the Yoruba tradition as well. It takes inspiration from that. So that was kind of like my traditional African spirituality university.
Yes, it was.
And for 5.5 years.
I want to go down this a little because there's so very much that what Ron Nepharamen gave to putting out Meduna-Ter. That book, because I lived in Colorado when the book came when the book came out, and I was working for Clara Villarosa. She had the largest African African-American bookstore in the world by title.
Wow.
So that was like my part-time job. And we had a Medunator study group, and it's Denver. So it's like 5, 8 of us friend groups being the study group.
Yeah.
And a man named Reverend Duke had studied, the Kemetic yoga that Yasir Hotep teaches. So he studied with Asar Happy too, the same person. So he was teaching us Kemetic yoga.
Oh, wow.
And we were studying Medunator.
Yeah.
And it did really, because before that, I think that Taoism and the I Ching and the Tao Te Ching was kind of like an idea. And I had been a little more interested. I thought that my roots would stay towards Christianity, I think, like in my collegiate years. So I was a little more interested in the Rosicrucian order, which Ron Neferman also comes through. So he just like bought together so many things for us.
And that was, my first time. We would have full moon rituals, and there was like ancestral possession and deity possession. So that was like my first introduction to traditional African spirituality. However, for me, I knew I got to a certain point where I was like, all right, it's time for me to move on to some other practices that, are leading me to the road that I know I need to go down now. Like to me, that community had a little bit too much control.
Yeah, it's indoctrination.
Yeah. And I was also at that time leaving my marriage.
Okay.
So I left my marriage.
Times they are changing.
Yeah. And I could have stayed in the community. It wasn't like they were like, get out. I wasn't kicked out or anything like that. Like, Shakma Rana Frama, he supported me leaving my marriage. We had counsel and all that stuff. So, I left the marriage, left the community, and that's when I started to actually get more into other systems like Orisha and also Haitian Voodoo, which I'm initiated in Haitian Voodoo as well. So I actually kind of started with that first, and then I had a godmother there. Then also I was had a spiritual mom in Voodoo. So, I wanted to, so it kind of brought me like full circle, into this path. And even that still was like a very windy road as well. But just to, like these other ways of traditional African spirituality had other ways of connecting with me, things that I needed to learn and absorb from that. But yes, I would say actually, the Orisha themselves brought me I know, right? To the traditional African spirituality period. And I think I kind of needed to go through a Saraset and have those lessons and learn, meditation and be exposed to Taoism, be exposed to Qigong and all those things. And then kind of, come full circle.
Well, I think one of the most important things that community has done for so many of us, and I think it's going to bear fruit for generations to come, is synchronizing how the world comes together. So that is, for me, I kind of thought as I was going through the Kemetic schools, my cousins were very active in Yoruba at the time, would be the name they used. And people will proselytize you, but I met beautiful people. There was an amazing great grandmother in the community named Mama Useye, and that was who I got my first reading with.
Yeah,
and that advice still sticks.
Listen.
Everything,
readings,
girl. I just had the flashback.
Yes. I had a reading with her too.
Yeah, I had a flashback.
Yeah,
and then so I've had these. For me, that side, it's always been touch points, and I've always wondered because there's also we love it, and I'm here for whatever. We're in a progression, and there's a side to it where we've been in 5,000, not 5,000, whatever, however long this weird patriarchy thing has been going on. We're breaking out of a cycle of indoctrination because like that's the method that we know. And people are like, come, you should be at my church. It doesn't matter if your church is a synagogue, a mosque, Ifa, like people want to bring you in because it feels comfortable. And I always was like, I like this, I feel this, but I don't know. And it would turn out in the end. When I and this was not very long ago, like trying to come to a decision, maybe about 10 years ago, I went and I got a reading, and they said, you're supposed to walk the red path. You're always welcome. Come on by. You're welcome for Sunday church. But what you bring to us.
This was the E5 reading?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Is the red path. And so initially I assumed Native American.
Ah, okay.
And so I started seeking. I couldn't find a serious enough community. Like I could find beautiful drum circles to come through, but not the seriousness. So I was like, I don't understand. I'm supposed to walk the red path. And at the same time, I was incorporating the our universal healing Tao kind of teachings into how I was teaching burlesque. So that was like always this thread.
Yeah.
Because ironically, I moved to New York to go to Parsons was one of the things I did. And I don't know if you remember, you probably do, because NYU, East West Bookstore.
Yeah.
Right. So that was like this beacon from home, coming from Boulder, Colorado. The New Age bookstore was my jam. And as soon as I finished my registration at Parsons, and I'm like, wow, look. And the first book I bought in New York City was Cultivating Female Sexual Energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Master
Thank you,
Montauk
Master
Chia.
Montauk Chia. Yeah, now it was hard pressed trying to get my sweet, sweet Christian boyfriend.
Come on, baby. Learn this microcosmic orbit. Circulate his energy with me.
Yeah. Well, hard pressed for that. But yeah, it all came full circle that when I figured it out, I'm like, oh, the other side. But I digress. Back to you. So where did we leave off on that? This is
I done left the star set.
Exciting.
I done started practicing voodoo.
Right.
Literally voodoo. And also the Lukumi. At that time, I was a part of a Lukumi house, which is different than the lineage I participate in now, which is more Isheshe, which is the direct Nigerian lineage. So
what is Lukumi? Because there's sisters out there that don't know.
All right. So Lukumi basically is the aspect of the Ifa Risha tradition that comes out of the Cuban lineage. So our ancestors were so brilliant and amazing, right? So when they were brought from slavery, from Nigeria and other parts of Africa that they came to, when they came to Cuba, they kind of codified the practice of the Risha Ifa practice, because different places, locations, villages, or whatever, towns had different types of practices. Everything is not always done the same because it's lineage based, right? Family based. So they basically codified the practice and created their own system called Regla de Ocha, which people also call the Lukumi, because I think the Lukumi words, I think it means my friend, right? Oh. So they kind of codified it and made it kind of a practice that kind of put everything together in their own way. So Lukumi, and a lot of people are introduced to Orisha and Ifa through Lukumi because that's mostly what we had over here, coming from Cuba, and, people bringing those practices to America and things like that. So I was a part of a Lukumi house, and then eventually I left that. And then for a few years, I was just kind of getting readings, going to different babalaos, and even trying different houses and not really finding the right fit. And then I met my Baba, who I'm with now, Baba Sekou Alaje. I met him actually in 2018. But because I think my own past Osiris set and all the other trauma, I didn't really join the temple until 4 years later. So
ain't none worse than getting hit on when you're trying to be spiritual. Just saying out there. Out there.
So, so now I'm a part of the Isheshe lineage. But I love my temple because my Baba also was a part of Lukumi. He was actually initiated to Oshun in Cuba. So he understands both. And our temple is also full of women and powerful women, like Renee.
Yes, we Renee had a visit. Renee and I spent some time talking about the relation between Ori and our Shen.
Yes, yep, makes total sense. So, So I'm very happy with the temple I'm a part of now, and
Beautiful
it's
community.
come full circle, But what was the other question? In terms of like the Taoist stuff, like how I got into that. So I was introduced to, of course, like I said, through Asara Set. I left Asara Set, and then left my marriage. And part of my healing was actually taking belly dance.
Oh, yeah.
And I think actually you're part of this story.
Oh, right.
Because I went
to snap,
yeah. So
Girl,
I was doing
belly dancers of color.
Yes, I was doing belly dance. That was like the most consistent dance, probably the dance that I don't consider myself a dancer at all, but that was the one dance where I did it. I was like, oh, my body. I feel like I've done this before. I feel like this dance form is like good for my body. So I went to the Belly Dancers of Color conference in the DMV. And Sunyata, Dr. Sunyata, shout out to Dr. Sunyata.
Yes, she gave us both our first yoni eggs?
Yes. She put on so many Black women to the Taoist practices and Master Mantak Chia. So she had a class there called Sexual Kung Fu.
Yep.
And I took that class, and she was selling jade eggs because nobody was even calling it, yoni egg. That term became popular later. It was really just, right, exactly.
Right, because we were at the hotel, and we would like run into the bathroom to insert our yoni egg and come back into practice in the room.
Yeah, so about my first jade egg, she had those classes. I just remember her saying, like, people who want to know more about this work, you need to get Mantak Chia's books. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm going to
let me get
Mantak Chia's book. So I got Cultivating Female Sexual Energy. And this was in maybe 2009.
Yep, that sounds right.
2009.
So
but you had taught a class.
I had a class.
Yeah, you were one of the classes because they had like different classes.
Oh yes, I had a burlesque class.
Yes.
So we gotta just tell you about this, ladies. What must have been from it was the year before. It must have been from 2007 to 2010. Sister Sunyata Amen. I should have her on too. She's based in DC. She had a belly dance studio, and she hosted an annual Belly Dancers of Color convention. And let me tell you, that it was, I'm getting tingles.
Yes.
Remembering just the power and community that was unleashed. Sisters and brother, did you get to go with Brother Rashid was there?
Yes, performed. So yes.
It was,
and also the way because I had a great belly dance teacher that was, actually at the Bedford YMCA. That's where I was taking classes.
Yes.
At Thalia. And she was great. But Dr. Sunyata, the way that she also bring our culture into belly dance hall.
Yeah.
So you're doing belly dance to reggae music and funk and it was
and teaching us because before Belly Dancers of Color, I didn't understand that belly dance rock sharki is a traditional African dance.
There you go.
That part.
Yes,
that
exactly. Part. And then she also had, talking about Orisha, she had people teaching Orisha dance from Cuba, Brazilian dance, everything. I think she even had I didn't take a Sufi. What's the whirling?
We had
I never got to take it.
An Indonesian class.
She has everything.
We need to get the band back together.
For real.
We need to get the band back together.
I think I went
because that was I love Essence Fest.
Yeah.
But that was my Essence Fest. You can kind of put your arms around it.
Yes. And so many, and they had the teacher showcase. That's where you got the teachers. You saw them perform.
And I always stripped and I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I was very much titties ain't never hurt nobody.
Yeah. Right.
Titties ain't never hurt nobody.
Titties have helped lots of
everybody.
bodies.
People will calm down. It's that's actually just quick little keep.
Yes.
When you have a little friction with your mate, just take your top off.
Listen.
Just say, let's talk about it again. It just calms everything down.
Yes. Remember that.
Where are we? Oh, you have it? Yeah.
Yeah. But no.
We generally want to reserve, in this cultural time, we have to reserve it for our mate. But no, seriously, if in conflict, if women, if we were safe, I want a day where women are safe enough to roll up on the UN and be like, what the fuck are you motherfuckers talking about? We take our shirts off and we're
there
everybody calm down.
Where women actually did that in Africa. And I don't remember the specifics, but there was a protest where women did it in Africa where they, because, traditionally our ancestors were walking around with their titties out. And
Yes.
it was just normal.
Kept everything level.
Right, exactly. And they actually did it as a form of protest. I need to find the details about it. I remember reading about that. And, because Western, this is a whole different relationship, too. Yeah, it's very powerful.
Okay, where do we go?
So when I got back from the conference, I got,
got the
healing,
book.
Healing Love for Women. And I was doing them practices. That was also part of my healing from my divorce because, the trigger for me with my divorce was, like I said, I had been the good girl my whole life. Even though I left Christianity and I was in a Sarasat, there was still some repression because, again,
wheel was still going.
You know what I mean? Like there's still an element of control in that community. So, and also just within me, my own personal connection to my feminine energy. And, I had did all the right things. I went to NYU. I graduated with honors. I was like a teacher, Teach for America. And I was a virgin, basically.
When you got married?
Well,
with that guy.
Yes, yes. Yeah. That, like my ex-husband was like
the idea
was
first. Like the first was going to be the last.
Exactly.
You were trying to be on that
and
program.
then I was like, oh, hell to the no.
You know what? No, everybody likes different kinds of sausage.
You know what I mean? And for me, it was more so like, wow, like I did everything like perfectly, and I'm unhappy,
and it all blew up anyway.
And I'm unhappy because I'm not fully expressing myself. It became about that. Like,
so what happens when you follow the recipe?
Yeah, right. And you're like, what the fuck?
Cake? Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't have my child. I'm teaching. I have the good, secure job. I have the husband, and I was just like, I'm actually quite miserable. Like all the things that I used to do, that I used to love, like performing and writing, like I'm not doing any of this shit, and I just was like, I felt like I was a shell of who I used to be in terms of like my creative expression, but also like I knew that I would not evolve into the woman who I was meant to be if I stayed in that relationship or in that spiritual community. So I was like, I'm actually leaving. And that was very, very difficult, breaking out of, community and marriage structure and, the things that people elevate and say, okay, you're getting
doing
married.
This right. You're doing life right.
Right. As a black woman, right, to be married, it's like, wow, you got the golden ticket to the Willy Wonka factory. It's like, oh my God. Like, and to be young.
Actually, I just do a lot of laundry and cook.
Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Take care of my child. So, and having my son was definitely part of it. And just feeling like, all right, this become my life, just being a mom and being at home. And
you feel like you got lost.
Absolutely. Like I got so lost, and I was just like, this is not going to work. Like there's another part of me that is like fighting to break free. And actually speaking about Oshun again,
she has got to express.
Listen.
It's a problem.
Yes. And at that time, because I was already contemplating leaving Asarasat. So I wound up getting a reading from a Babalawo, which is like a high priest in the Ifa tradition. So Oshun came up again in that reading, and he did not tell me. And what I love, any reading I got, no one told me to stay or to leave my marriage. They told me to like meditate and to pray,
contemplation,
right, and to make a choice, right? So he gave me a ritual to do to Oshun, to pray to Oshun like every morning, with like water and honey, and he gave me this ritual. And to pray specifically, he told me to pray to Oshun to learn the secrets of being a woman. And that's what I believe led me to the Taoist practices. Because it was after I did that prayer and then wound up leaving and taking the belly dance and then going on this whole road. So for me, it was like definitely like there's Oshun who was like, I'm actually going to take you down this path so that you could actually find yourself and then help other women to love themselves and their bodies and to find themselves. So that was my initiation.
Girl, this is the romance of the ages.
Yes.
Yes.
So I shout out, Oriya Oshun all day. And it's Oshun's day too. Oshay Oshun. So I wear my yellow. Okay.
Beautiful.
Yes. So I just Oshun, is the one who taught me to love myself.
Wow.
Yes. Because, people say like, oh, they think Oshun, they think like romance and all this other stuff, kind of like, and all that's fine, not, I won't say superficial, but all those aspects
it's
are necessary,
but the romance is to the Ori, to the soul, to it is the
Right.
romancing of the self.
Yes.
Is really, and then you're rolling out, and then you can have
yes,
whomever
exactly.
you might like.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying before, like you cannot teach yourself magnetism. You can't like it's a space that
I think what you do is that you dissolve whatever's blocking it, because that's the natural, like, feminine energy is magnetic. Like, that is the power of feminine, of yin, of like that dark energy of the womb, right? Like, we magnetize, we draw, we pull up. So it's about like, once I release the blockages that are preventing me from being who I naturally am in my power as a goddess, right? Then I become magnetic because I wake the fuck up to who I am. It's like, of course,
girl,
I am magnetic,
girl,
because I'm a fucking goddess. Of course, I can manifest. Of course, I have moments where we forget.
Oh.
I be forgetting. You know what I mean? Like, I be tripping. My crown get a little crooked sometimes, but that's part of the journey.
And it is, that's the grace too.
Yes, giving yourself grace.
Because there's sometimes like that. There's sometimes you gotta do your yang shit. But what I'm working on is getting that, like, letting it all come from that, like, getting more and more.
Yes.
And there's so many. My mind is blanking right now. But all those fantastic, I'll throw something in post production, but all those quotes like, see it in your mind, let it be in the unseen, trusting that it's there. That's part of why magnetism, working with yin, tending to your yin is challenging.
Yes.
In a yang world.
Oh my goodness. In a yang world in New York City.
Like yangity, yang, yang, yang.
Right? One of the most yang places like ever. Like this society in general, Western society and the world is not set up for us to comfortably be in our yin. Oh. It's set up to exhaust the hell out of your yin.
Well, I think, and the exhaustion is ignoring it, discrediting it, and all these things are so. I've been in my Taoist contemplation, if you will, right now. I've been very much thinking about how this discrediting of the yin, making like that, it is the foundation of patriarchy.
Yes, absolutely.
And
the control of it as well.
Oh, well, that's why they want control of our minds, because our mind is the yin space. So if you can muck it up and put all these boundaries in there, like you said, your work is essentially shedding what's in the way of the magnetism. And that's these crazy hypnotisms that they have us going through. But the idea, moving into our ovaries, like women think that the point of their ovaries is to make babies.
Only, right?
Like legit, you think that that's why you got them, and we have bought into it. And then the ovaries don't make babies. Then a time comes where they do make babies. Then they don't make babies, so you can just go on out to pasture, and whatever you might go through. Well, you're histrionic, you're crazy, you're imagining it. Without understanding that making babies is a thing. That your ovaries do. But before they were making babies, they were making your bones. They were making your bones. They were here. Your body is here to serve, nurture, and cultivate you. Your energy is here for that. And your sexual energy, your sex life is a department of it. It's not, whew, girl, yeah. What we gonna do? How we gonna making more sovereign women in the world?
Absolutely, and that connection. And as you were talking, you just helped me think of also like the creative energy of sexual energy. And I feel like, I know for me, when I was going through the things I was going through in my marriage, like I told you, I was a theater major. So one of the first things that shut down in my marriage is my creativity, right? Yeah. Like writing is my first love. I had difficulty writing. Like I felt so stifled because I was trying to also write in this way that aligned up with like spiritual system
And
I
who
was
you
in.
were in this society.
You know what I mean?
of-
As opposed to like my
Yeah.
authentic truth, right? And not being able to express from that place because that place was being repressed, you know? And during the last year of my marriage, like I got repeat laryngitis where I literally could not speak. But it was just symbolic of my throat chakra being blocked because number one, I was not expressing that I was unhappy. And number two, my creative energy was not being expressed, right? Because also poetry and spoken word was also a big part of, you know, what I did and like my passion, my creativity. And it's like none of that was happening, you know? So I think as more women in the healing of their sacred sexual energy, like one of the biggest things that become unleashed is the creativity.
Yes.
Right? Because that is our natural, you know, we create, we gestate, you know, we birth, and like that creative energy is so important.
So potent and so important for I love sovereignty is just one of my favorite words, but making you feel and know that you are here to express whatever you're moved to express, not what is confined. Like you get to be your own work of art. Your life is your masterpiece.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this letting the energy move through you. You know, we repress so much. We're allowing it to actually to move, even if it's just for you.
I think, can we do it for anybody else until we start to get some mastery at doing it for ourselves?
Correct.
Because in that, once, it's kind of like once you don't need to be seen, you're seen. You're fully, like once you are, once you decide that you are enough, you are just as good as everybody else. Spirit puts you here because you have you to do. And in that comfort and in expanding that space, because like I just got the image of the Empress tarot card, you know, just like luxuriating in your space and making your queendom. And that's what gives you the energy to shine bright.
And that's the magnetism we were talking about, right? That's the
once
flower.
It becomes without effort. And it's hard to believe that's like no pain, no gain. Work hard, you'll get what you want. Like dream, all of that stuff.
Any of that. I don't want none of that. Reject all of that.
You have a Pisces and a Taurus, and we like our comfort.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah. Oh, I just got a beat. I got a flash of us being on the beach, eating well.
Yes.
Yeah. It's such a hard jump until you make it. It's kind of like we think of leaps of faith as something that we do externally, but it's a dive of faith into yourself.
Right, and it starts with just the decision. That's the harder part. That's the yang part. You got to decide, right? You got to direct it. But once you make that decision, then the forces will come and the supports will come.
Right.
But I
and
think
the grace.
in the grace, I think so many of us are just afraid to decide because we are afraid to, like, what is the other side going to look like?
The other side going to look like, and our self-esteem, because it's gotten attached to some many random things.
Right. So things that are outside of ourselves, all the external things. Yeah.
So on that, it makes me want to say, you know, the grace is like to be willing to try and go in a little bit more.
Right.
Just I'm willing to accept this part of myself a little bit more. You know, you are going to be here for, I hope, as many years as you need to fulfill your mission. And there's time and there's patience. It's not a race. And when you land at these different summits, the whole journey, all that bullet from behind you was so worth it. So worth it. We're
Yeah,
everywhere.
I love the word grace. It makes me think about also, because I mostly work with Black women in my
Yes.
coaching programs, how Black women, we tend to be so hard on ourselves because we haven't, like, even telling my story about growing up, like the margin to fuck up, we really have not
So
had.
slim.
Right, we have not had.
So
it's
slim.
like, nobody else is going to do this shit, so guess I'm going to do it. And I'm going to take this whole burden on and make sure this shit gets done because the kids need to eat and the bills have to be paid and somebody's got to fucking do it, you know?
And it seems like a lot of us are often, it's our job to give grace.
What?
You know, everybody
Yes.
is like doing that. And so
Right.
people are doing their best. I'm not saying that, but we're always being asked to give grace
Right.
when we need to be showing ourselves grace.
Exactly.
First
That's
and
church.
foremost.
Okay.
Because this is, I'm taking, I have to hip you to this, Sister Jennifer Arnice. She is running this cohort, and her work is around the Black mother wound. Girl, sister, girl, girl, girl.
Yeah.
This, to sit with, maybe there's 20 of us,
Okay.
and we are all coming from the diamond facets of experiences, you know, and this wound that just keeps getting passed down and passed down and passed down and passed down to the point where some of us, it's not healthy to be around your mom because you have to reckon your own healing. You can't hold the space for it and how to navigate it. But golly, gobstoppers. To even be at a place in time where Black women talk honestly about our mothers, this is like a huge healing trajectory. This shit is powerful.
Yeah.
And
because
watching
it's also like who our mothers had to become to survive in this country and to survive in this world, right? And the traumas that they inherited and the mechanisms that they took on for survival. And it's like, now we're the generation, you know, like we give thanks that my mom has passed. So I understand her. I understand what made her. I'm so grateful for her, you know, and now I know she's still with me as an ancestor. But we get to now take the healing to another level. Like a lot of them, they didn't have the opportunity or the anything. They literally were trying to survive.
Yes.
Like literally.
And toe the line and be that lady that you were being. Woof. And my mom has made her transition too. And it's interesting because I'm one of the only women in the group who's in that. And her birthday was yesterday, September 11th. And
my mom's birthday is September 27th. Though.
Okay.
Libra.
Oh, you got the Libra side.
Yeah,
girl.
yeah.
The September 11th thing is real. Yeah. Like every Saturday it was crazy. It's crazy. Love her. But now what I think that I have for having gone through the life passage of my mom's transition is
that's a whole other thing.
Oh, girl, it's a long walk underwater. Girl, and
that's a lot.
You do not know if your nose is going to surface. But the influx of her ability to send ancestral love. Love
Absolutely.
that she couldn't get to the mental space to give when she was here. That just flows. And me at this place where now, like, everything, it's like, oh, shit. I was talking to her yesterday. And I'm like, you know what? I understand. I have to finish cleaning up this stuff, but it's all, I totally understand why you were rolling the way you were rolling.
Did you hear that little noise?
Yeah.
They're here.
She's in signals. It's and that grace, like that's the ultimate relief, because that healing, any healing that we do, isn't just for you.
Oh my goodness!
It's my healing, is her healing, is her mother's healing, is my sister's healing.
Absolutely.
Who can't even have these kind of conversations.
Right, exactly. So in my coaching programs, the very first thing we do, one of the first things, is an female ancestral healing ceremony.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they all come in on this journey. Like you said, we're not just doing it for ourselves or by ourselves, understanding that as we heal and elevate, they do too. And that's also something that I learned, of course, in traditional African spirituality. It was like we begin with the ancestors, with the egungun. Like nothing is going down without the ancestors. Right. You know what I mean? But it's so important. And it's also beautiful for you to recognize, understand, like those relationships can continue so you know what I mean, and you can actually still heal those relationships even after they transition.
Do you know one exercise, one of my favorite qigong sets I actually learned at Tao Tantra camp, the primordial qigong set. And this is when it was crazy, girl, because in this camp we went to,
I want to take a class on that. I feel like I want to keep up with that.
Come practice with me. Just come practice with me. So we went to this really terrific camp that blended together our Taoist practices and our Tantra practices. But it's a whole bunch of different women from a whole bunch of backgrounds and different levels.
A lot of European women.
Yeah, we were the black ladies.
How many was in your group?
I was a black lady.
You were the black lady. My group was like, it was 3 of us.
Did you have Carlene?
No. She came after me.
Okay.
Yeah. It was 2 other sisters, and that was that's probably the most they've ever had in a cohort.
Yeah.
Shocked.
There was one biracial sister, but she very much identified as more Italian.
Okay.
Lovely, but like she didn't grow up in America. It was just not her experience. But this set, so in my ear, like most of the women, Tantra is more tangible and it just sounds more sexy, and that's what a lot of women go into it for. People aren't necessarily like the Taoist stuff gets blended in because the best documentation of yoni egg practice comes from that lineage, and so it kind of flows in there. But all of this to say, nobody really wanted to do qigong.
Really?
No,
in your group? Because I know each group has a different energy.
Yeah. They weren't. But that set. And we learned it at the end. Yeah. And everybody. I loved my roommate. I loved her. She was so snarky. She's like, I hate qigong. I don't know why we do qigong. But primordial qigong, she's like, I get it. Oh, and I'm like, what is it about this set? What is it about this set that people who, like, that was the only one that registered. And so I've been going deeper and deeper on it. But that is the set where I can I think it's a combination because the movements are simple. So there's not a lot of like hard thinking about
it's not
choreography.
Iron shirt.
It's not. You can do it a little strenuous, but you don't have to do it strenuously, and it moves in all the directions. So you're pulling in that shamanic energy.
Yeah, it definitely feels more shamanic.
Yeah,
that's
but
what I was
the
thinking.
way you can pull ancestor in, I did it the other day, and I was connecting with my parents, and feeling great love for my mate. And I went into the set and I said, you know what? I want to, today this set is devoted to when I fell in love, when my parents fell in love, when my grandparents fell in love, whenever that moment when everybody fell in love that made all this family.
I love that.
It was fantastic. And 2 days or so later, I had a dream about my college parents. My best friend, I had these amazing mentors in college, and their daughter was my best friend, and their son is my dear friend. They was just a part of the family, and they came in the dream, and they're like, "Well, we need to be in the set too. Why weren't we in the set?"
Like, hello. They're living or they're ancestors?
No, they're ancestors.
Okay, so they was watching you.
I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yeah. I like. There's some about that particular one that's just got an immediacy to it. That I love.
I need to practice. I haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah, girl, come out to the park. Come out to the park. Yeah. Oh, well. So how did you find your way to Tao Tantra?
So I was reading Healing Love and working on it. So Dr. Sunyata was like 2000, like 09, and I was reading it and doing the practices by myself till like 2014. In 2014, just looking online, like, I can't go to
Right, because
nobody's
that's
Thailand.
kind of when it first popped up.
Yeah, I was like, I can't go to nobody's Thailand. I got like a child, and so Michael Wynn, who has Healing Tao USA in North Carolina, I saw that he had a Healing Love retreat. So I went to that, and at that time he was co-teaching with Minka.
Okay.
So I went down there and I did the week, and it was like really just awesome to have like I was like,
immersion.
Right. And also, like, I've been doing this from a book for like all these years, and to actually have a teacher and people who've been doing it a very long time.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have a circle back on that.
You know what I mean? So then I got to meet Minka, who I love Minka. Like, she's such an embodiment of the teachings, and she's been doing it also for like forever, like Sharon. And she talked about, because, it was a mix, men and women in most of the classes, but then they had like a couple classes where they separated. Yeah, women and men. And she taught Yoni Egg, and she talked about the Tao Tantra teacher certification. And so I was like, I want to do that. And that was like 2014. But, single mama, it took me literally 3 years to do it.
For it to happen.
Yeah, and so in 2017, the universe opened the way, and I was like, I'm going to this training. So that's how I got introduced to Tao Tantra.
That's amazing.
And I had my 5-week initiation. Really, I consider it like an initiation, or I consider it an initiation in Tao Tantra in Thailand.
That's amazing.
But at that time, I was already teaching. I was already started my company, Let Go, Let Goddess, 2013. End of 2013, I taught my first classes. And then 2014, I had my first online class. Yeah, and that was the same year I went.
Great.
So, yeah, I was teaching, and I was, put all that into what I was teaching, because my friends, I was telling them about what I was learning. They were just like, you need to go teach this stuff. You know what I mean? I was already a teacher. I was a classroom teacher. So I was like, if I can teach, Bebe's kids, then I can teach anybody.
I can teach Bebe.
Yeah, exactly. I can teach, because Bebe
Let me teach Bebe.
You know what I mean?
The people that teach Bebe's kids next will be in a much better situation.
Right. So, so that's how I started. Let Go, Let Goddess.
Yeah, the book is great and crazy, because it's so...
Oh, with Healing Love?
Yeah.
It's so dense.
It's so dense.
Like, the Taoist stuff is just like, you need a teacher. Like, you can grasp some of it, but it's like, you need a teacher.
So when I finally, so I got my book, it was in the 90s. Clinton was president. Okay. And I carried it around with me. And I mean, it's crazy to think, like, whatever, I was doing fantastical. Clinton was president. Puffy was a reasonable person to be around. It was a totally different time.
So we thought.
At the time.
Right.
At the time, it seemed. Yeah, that's a whole different thing, because in my mind, like, let me tell you, I'm like, what? This is a Puffy tangent. What happened? When was the moment? Yeah. Okay. End Puffy tangent. So when I finally kind of joined up and started, because I also thought, I did the burlesque thing. I was starting to teach I started teaching burlesque at Sacred Yoga Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, well, this can be different, because now it doesn't have to be performative. So what does it mean? So I started bringing the exercises in, and I was at Goddard at the time too. Okay. And I finally carried my ass to Sharon's class, and that led me to my certification process. And I took my book one time, and my Tao auntie Jamie was like, oh yeah, this is a textbook, you're supposed to go to the class. Yeah. I'm like, no, you can't really make your way. I'm like, oh yeah. So I haven't, because I've had this book, and I feel like I turn it upside down a million ways, and I'm like, wait, what but it's a beautiful thing, because it to go from what the fuck is orgasmic upward draw, like that just sounds like what,
and it's like so many steps. It's like 20 steps.
And now it's like a time step, shuffle ball change, flap steps on, shuffle ball change. It's just up your spine from your ovaries to your brain. It's Really, it's
pretty
great.
much.
Yeah, so totally. And then here's another neat thing that a story that Sharon told me. So the beginning of Tao Tantra camp came about because they had all gone to Thailand for to sell, like senior teacher kind of celebration, and Sharon was producing the event, and she was putting roommates together.
Oh, okay.
And she put Sashi and Minka together.
Wow.
And that is
the rest is history.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. I didn't know Sharon was. Yeah, that's cool. I love it.
That was good. I went to Costa Rica, which I love.
Oh, yours is in Costa Rica.
Girl, yeah.
I still haven't been to Costa Rica.
Girl, that food.
Yeah.
I'm always like, that food? Yeah. I had a great time. So, where do Tao and Tantra meet for you? How do... Tell us something. Anything. Like, this is great.
Well, I always like to say I identify as more Taoist than Tantric. Because for me, and I think coming from traditional African spirituality, like lineage is very important. And what I love about Universal Healing Tao and all the senior instructors is that they always give praise and thanks and honor to Master Mantak Chia. And I love the specificity of the practices and the practicality of it and how it's actually really great for your body. Like, it's the spiritual stuff, of course, is all in there, but like physically for your body as women to balance your hormones,
Yes.
I was on IG and I think her name was like Chef Anki or Chef Aki or something. She does like vegan food. But she had a post talking about how women are like making themselves go into early menopause because they're not having sex. And how a lot of Black women are not having sex for like long periods, longer than I can even imagine, like 5, 6, 7 years. I actually saw a video where Maya says she's been celibate for 7 years, which absolutely blows my mind. But Maya, the singer from back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah, right. As gorgeous as it's like I get it on one level.
There's like because the shells.
Yeah.
You really do need to fuck.
Level. Yeah.
I do.
However, I was thinking,
safely, happily,
right,
ecstatically,
but I was
fulfillingly.
thinking, like, if these women were doing the practices, they probably wouldn't be going into menopause, right? If they chose not to have sex,
honey,
you know what I mean? That was like their choice,
honey,
and they were doing practices, like they could be okay.
That's actually what I'm gonna start my next cohort around is working with women like in this perimenopause moment. And I think I want to focus. I so love that I get a little torn. I'm like, should I only work with Black women? Should I work with everybody? And I'm so inspired. I decided that I'm going to kind of alternate. Like, this will be an African women's cohort. This one's for everybody. Because I like that, but I just really need to take care of us first.
Absolutely.
But yes. So I practice the Universal Healing Tao, sacred sexuality practices, and I also practice the white tigress practices. And where they come to our UHT practices are tonifying, right? The white tigress are a little more intense.
Okay.
It's a little more intense, and you do feel like when you get into like that kind of 10th day of doing your bosom massage, you're like, hey girls, what's up? You pump it up, but women don't. Well, let me not say that like that. Being in relationship with your bosom, touching your bosom, any kind of way on a regular basis, in relationship with your bosom, touching your bosom, any kind of way on a regular basis, sends hormonal signals to your body.
Yeah.
That can help you. And I think it's so important. If you're not in a sexual relationship, you do need to give yourself sensuality and affection and sexy time as is right for you. Just beyond, I love a good bubble bath. We love some good lotion, but truly like stimulate your nipples. Let them get hard. Like you need this. And that's part of thinking that our bodies are for other people.
Right. Exactly. So it's like in my programs, like the class I have now is called Sacred Pussy Worship.
We love that.
And every week, yeah, I'm very hands-on. Like, there's a practice. Like, so many women have seen my breast in my classes. Like, because, you know, we're going to be massaging our titties, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we're not taught to touch ourselves in that way for ourselves.
Yes.
You know.
And even to be comfortable with other women doing it, or doing it in front of other women, you know. One thing I appreciate in the way that Sashi taught was talking about the difference between women being together in a sapphic way, celebrating and nurturing ourselves as women.
Yin feeds yin.
Yeah, and not to be confused. If you want to be together in a lesbos way, that's cool. But even in terms of like woman-woman relationships, if you're a lesbian, you still need sapphic time with women, because that's your time that isn't you giving your body for sharing for someone else.
Right.
Whereas in your lesbian, it's relationship. So we all need that self-starting time. And even in our practices, you, what does Sharon like to say? Like, you have to run the horse before the race.
I haven't heard that one.
You're doing the practices, the practices, solo practices, training.
Yes.
So that when you know you hit the hot sheets, everything is ready to go.
Listen.
And as, like, it's so important to say, it's fabulous when you get your man there or your mate, but they don't even know nothing about it to make it work.
Correct. Circulate.
Yeah.
And then, you know, of course, with a partner, you can guide and things like that, but you could be doing your own work. You could be circulating and, you know.
Well, and there's also the entrainment, right? If you and your circulation, they come. Well, they entrain to what you're putting. Men. I love that they can't truly articulate the power of the pussy. I love that they can't. But if we're talking about, you know, happy, healthy relations, you and your man, you doing your orbit, you and your pattern is going to bring your man, you're going to bring him into breathing entrainment. And then you just say, babe, put your tongue on the roof of your mouth.
Look up. Yeah. Send the energy up.
Yeah, and they keep doing it because they're like, that was great. I know, right? We like went to a different planet.
Listen. Get your practices, ladies.
Yes. I think that's one of the greatest parts of this path that we're on. Like, we get to be the people, like, as it turns out, you having a happy sex life is very important for your health, for your spirituality.
Right. Yes.
For, you know, and I think Taoism is so fun because it is, I call it spiritual physiology. You wondered about how above, so below worked. Here it is.
Right.
Here it is.
And it's such a great balance of like this, especially I guess the way Master Mantak Chia teaches it, he includes the science so much in it, you know, with the spirituality. So it's like, oh, like this actually makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
satisfy that left brain.
This is what's happening, right? This is what we're doing. So whereas I mean, I love the tantric practices, but at least, you know, I guess how I've learned or explored it, it can be very like airy-fairy. It can be very esoteric and not grounded. And you know what I mean? It could feel or look pretty, but like sometimes the practicality of it, like the everyday of it, isn't always like. I like Tantra as like a more in the philosophical essence of it, which is like spirit and matter is not separate. Like it is actually one. Like I come here into my physical body, you know, to embody the divine and to see the divine in everything, and that there's no
Right.
separation between the divine and me, that so that I can have pleasure in lovemaking, and I can embody like this Shakti energy, in lovemaking, and it's not non-dualistic. So I like it in the philosophy. I mean, I like it all, but
Yeah. Oh,
but that
do you know
those
the hit that
aspects
I
of
just
it.
got? Because so Taoism on one side of the mountain, Tantra on the other side. And we know,
Yeah.
and then traditional African religions over here. And
Mm-hmm.
since we both come from have an Asaraset background, we know
Yeah.
that from the way that he
Mm-hmm.
explained it,
Yeah.
is that indigenous
Right.
Indian culture
Right.
are African people.
Absolutely. The Dravidians.
Right. So
Absolutely.
then, so we
Because I
just.
know I had past lives there.
Oh
Okay?
my God! I'm a star. I will.
Yes.
I will go be with the Dalit people in any minute.
Absolutely.
So, but wait. So, girl, we just brought the whole thing together.
Mm-hmm.
So, who would Shakti be in the pantheon? I wish I had my book here. Does she relate to someone?
like in Asarasat, in the
Mm-hmm.
Meduna tier, Shakti would be like chi, would be life force.
Oh,
You know,
right,
'cause-
right.
yeah,
Because it's a force, not a deity.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of that, like all of it, like all the goddesses would be Shakti.
An aspect of Shakti.
Mhm, it would be an aspect
She's
of
coming them all
Shakti.
together.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
Yeah.
girl.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing this for a little while, and we just realized we might be on to something.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to make some kind of play dates and bring women together in the future.
Yes.
That would be fun.
Yes, absolutely.
So, my darling, you're a published author.
yes.
Tell us everything. Tell us
I
everything.
have several books.
Nice.
My most popular book is called Nice for What?
I love that name.
Yes, How to Go from Being a Good Girl to a Badass Goddess, which clearly is my story. But it's a self-help. Like most of my books are self-help books. So that's a self-help book, and that is the most popular. You can find it on Amazon. Last year, no, it was actually this year, I published an ebook where it was channeled through me, really. It's very different than anything else I've written, called Cosmic Woman, Secrets of the Goddess for Black Women.
Ooh.
And that one is more channeled poetry type of book. It's not it's very feminine. It's not really an order. It was literally just, you're going to write this and you're going to do this.
You're going to get this out.
Yeah. And that is, you can get that on my website. And that's just, an ebook. And then I have several other books, but everything is on Amazon. Like those are the two I can really highlight right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But everything else. I have a book on how to heal from a breakup, Happy and Healed.
Ooh,
That
how
was
do you
a-
heal
that was
from a
a
breakup?
verse.
Ooh, how
Get
long do
into
you
your
think?
body.
How long were you married?
We were together 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How long did it take to get on past that?
I don't even know. I think it was really about me doing this work, doing the Tao Tantra work, getting into traditional African spirituality. So let me see, from the time we broke up to when I started teaching, I mean, everything is still healing, but yeah, I think it's just, I found a different center for my life, which became me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which became me. So I think once I tapped into that power, you know what I mean? It was just like,
Yeah, that is a lot of a breakup.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially like if you fall into like a limerent, like super circulate, it's so much about centering the other person in your life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear around centering yourself as a woman.
Absolutely, especially a Black woman. Like you said, everybody expects grace from us
Mm-hmm.
and us to take care of everything else that nobody else wants to do. So our lives actually tend to not be centered. And I think as Black women are becoming more centered in themselves, this is where all the other podcasts come in and, all the angry hate that is,
I saw this. You must know what's going on. There's some Black men out there talking shit because I saw this YouTube video of this guy. He's like, I want to apologize to all the brothers out there on these podcasts. I'm like, what? But I'm not catching those podcasts. But it was apologizing because of things that black men taking black women down on a podcast.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
as a
I don't
series of
sit and
cultures.
watch them, but there are clips, you know,
There's
that
things
you see on TikTok or Instagram. But I mean, I don't. To me, I'm like, I don't care. Like,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
so
I guess
don't care.
there's that vacuum.
But
Who is that guy? Kevin Samuels.
Yeah,
with the whole...
exactly. And he has his cult followers. So, but it's interesting how he passed, which is a whole other thing.
I know, right?
Yeah, power of the pussy again.
You know,
but
we're sure you see it a different way from your new perspective, Kevin.
yes,
We wish
love
you
and
well.
light. You know, but yeah, I think the toxicity. I don't feel impacted by that shit at all. It just bounces off of me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the poison is that then those ideas come into the popular culture, into the community, and other black men begin to adopt it. And none of it really is about bringing us together. It's really about tearing apart and tearing down. And
using people, like basically saying that, you know, we're to tell and to be used. Like there's some brain blowing up there's some blowing up of brain cells that's going to continue to happen the more that we live for ourselves. And everybody just going to have to get used to it.
Hello.
Yeah.
Listen, y'all had how many hundreds of years?
Yeah. Because it's like, nobody feel like being tired.
Okay.
Nobody feel like being tired no more.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
No, I'm ready to be like happy, fulfilled, healed.
Right.
Like we want our little joys. We want our magic. We want to, we did not come here for that.
Right.
That's basically it. We did not come here for that.
Reclaiming my time.
Oh, yes. Yes, we did a fantastic burlesque piece to that. I put it. I did it. Oh my God, it was cool. We did it at Brooklyn Museum, and it was a really funny one because the girls. It's kind of hard to get burlesque gals to do a group piece because it kind of implies rehearsal. But people like to be very much independent artists, and they're like, I don't get it. But I set it up so that it was like there was a Sojourner Truth. There was a slave woman. There was a woman from the 20s. Like I got an iconic image of a black woman from all these different eras, and Maxine going through. It was fantastic. We got a standing ovation, and they were like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Yeah, that's." After that, they like rehearsing.
That's funny.
That whole expression was a trip. It was a good time, but that was also like. You're an actor. Have you ever been in a band? Are you a musician too?
Girl, I can't sing worth of nothing.
It's price. You know when you think everybody is doing the same thing, and you find out the hard way everybody isn't on one accord. They just happen to be doing the same thing. That's a lot what that was like. But anyhow, what else? Is there anything that you want to let people know about?
You can find me at Let Go Let Goddess. Everything letgoletgoddess.com. Instagram is Let Go Let Goddess. I mean, I know people. My son says Facebook is for old people, but Instagram would probably be the best way to keep up because Facebook does weird things with the fan page now. But anyway, Let Go Let Goddess on Instagram, and you can find out about what I'm doing, my latest offerings. I don't know when this is gonna air, but I am doing a masterclass next week. On the full moon eclipse in Pisces, which is my sign. But whenever you see this, though, I probably will be doing another masterclass. So just go to letgoletgoddess.com or my Instagram, and you can find out.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me. This is
Thank you. This is so much fun, and we went in so many tangents.
This is the beginning of a series of conversations. I just feel like more ink, more airtime, more space needs to be devoted to Black women talking about our spirituality, our philosophy.
Absolutely.
We talk about a lot of amazing things, but I want us to be talking about this. So, yes, and maybe we'll have some convenings with our amazing sisters that we hang out with. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, look at me. So cute. We're so cute. I think it's that camera, but I don't know. I will figure it out. I'm getting my old broadcast life on, y'all. Yeah, let's see. How am I doing? That's not it? Okay, this is the part where we going to edit it. That's my program. So for a moment, boom, I'm going to let you be on the program, and then I'm going to remember how to get back to me. Or maybe the fuck I'm not. Maybe I'm just... It's a lot. Let me give myself a little outro. Looking so soul in my 70s glasses. And I'm going to go right to this camera. And boom. All right, y'all. Thank you so very much for hanging out with us for this Shiro Space podcast. It has been an honor and a pleasure to have my sister, my friend, my colleague. And I love that we had more things in common. But this is the Shiro Space because it may be a man's world, but it sits on a woman's earth. Mm-hmm. Ashe.
Yeah.
We will see you next time.